Well, welcome to Maker Faire. So how many of you guys have been to Maker Faire before? Awesome. So how many are you new? I'm going to keep my hand up because it's the first time I've been to New York Maker Faire, and it's awesome. I'm particularly interested in the laser stuff. It's really cool. One of the things I'm here to talk to you about is Intel's new product, Intel Edison. I'm Jim Chase. I am from Intel's New Products Group, and my title is Platform Maker. So we're going to talk about Edison, the hardware itself, give you a little bit of introduction there. Nothing super deep detail, but I'll be more than happy to answer questions for you afterwards. Also want to tell you about Edison the platform, because Edison is not just a piece of hardware. There's also a whole software ecosystem around Edison as well. So what is Edison? Edison basically is a high-performance Wi-Fi module that you can place on any product. It's a productized version of a Wi-Fi module, the dual-core 500 megahertz Atom chip, and a 802.11n and Bluetooth 4.0 wireless module, all integrated together. The reason why we went out of our way to build Edison, primarily because of the feedback that we're getting on Galileo and several other platforms that are out there today, is that it's very easy to build with demos with the platforms, but it's not all that easy to productize with those platforms. And so what we wanted to do is help lower the barrier on a couple of things that are difficult for people to do. Primary one is integrating wireless connectivity, and then also connecting that platform to other devices and also to the cloud. So the Intel offering actually works for a broad market swath. If you're a maker, maybe you're just starting, you started taking a look at Arduino products. It's a very excellent way to get started learning how to program. And one of the things that we've learned is helping people get onto your platform very quickly. We want to make sure that we give you the tools, the integrated development environments to be able to do that very exact thing. But also, one of the things that we've discovered is you guys are really good, okay? We've seen some awesome platforms being developed over the last few years right out of the maker community. And so what we kind of term this as the pro maker, okay? The guys that are really good at hacking around on stuff. Getting to the point where you can take your bundle of wires, create a nice little package, maybe create a really nice package around a 3D printer, or drone, robot, whatever it is that you might be making. All those entrepreneurs out there that want to make connected products, be able to do and create new artistic elements, as well as actually take product to market and make money. The other area that the New Devices Group is targeting is more like the consumer IoT market. So what does that mean? Well, it's like connected watches, wearable bracelets, things that keep track of body-worn sensors, whether it's like a Nike Fitbit or something like that. Okay? We see this large consumer trend to helping you be more healthy, or helping you keep track of where your family is, or helping you keep track of where your kids are at a Maker Faire, for example. Okay? And the other thing is that you'll find that Edison falls into the category of consumer-ish and commercial class temperature ranges, but in reality, there's a lot of light industrial applications that this fits really, really well for. Asset tracking, infrastructure management, and things like that. So for those that are well on the professional side, you'll get my gist here in just a minute. But one of the things that I want to point out is at the very, very top of this food chain, of course, is the Edison module, and then potential derivatives that we come up with. But below that, we also had to make it easy for you to use, because as a module, it's not really very useful by itself. Well, we'll show you what that module looks like in a minute. So we also created a line of expansion boards that help you get started. And one of them is an Arduino expansion board, working in conjunction with the Arduino guys to help you be able to take your sketches that you're currently creating on Arduino microcontroller-based platforms, migrate those easily to Edison. Our platform of choice from an operating system perspective is Yocto Linux. And for those of you that are advanced developers, usually gets people fairly excited. Yocto is a very IP-friendly, intellectual property-friendly starting point for those of you that actually have to productize this thing and get it out the door. We do a lot of work on scrubbing that IP to make sure that what we hand you is something that is truly an open source implementation. The other thing about Yocto is it gives you a fantastic optimal way to create your Linux kernel specifically for your product. You don't have a lot of overhead to go along with that. Get your boot times way down, things like that you might want to optimize. But also on top of that, we can't just stop there. Giving somebody an operating system to get going, okay, well, it's kind of like giving somebody DOS. Go. Okay, well, I'm a DOS guy, so you see me typing away on a command line or a Unix command line and doing a lot of scripting, but for the most part, for the rest of us, we have to actually kind of put other things around there to help us out. So what we also wanted to do is give you interesting IDEs for you to develop your product with. Obviously, Arduino is part of that. But we also have given you access to Eclipse, and then a new one that we're introducing called XDK for IoT. And essentially, it is a wrapper around HTML5 and Node.js, which Node.js comes innate on Edison, that allows you to create your product on your device, as well as the application that might reside on your phone through an HTML server or some other connection to cloud services that might be part of your application as well. So we didn't stop there. What we also did is we've created, and we're right in the middle of a large beta at this point, on what we call the IoT Developer Kit. And what that is a middleware layer that allows you to easily connect Edisons to Edisons and Edisons to the cloud. Okay? But we didn't stop there. Okay? We also included some cloud offering we call the IoT Analytics Cloud, or Cloud Analytics. And what it is we've given you basically a freely available for non-commercial use ability to connect all your Edisons together in the cloud and do analytics and send out emails or other things that you might want to do based on time series analysis or anything else that you want to do. Okay. So the other thing that we found out was very important was communities are tremendously important. In fact, it's actually the best support mechanism on the planet. Calling up the FAE, he's not necessarily going to know everything there is to know about your connected widget. But I'm telling you, there's probably somebody on Google that does. Okay? So one of the things that we wanted to do is create a rich environment in our community and tons of examples and content to help you get your application going and sustain that. And we also want you to contribute to that community as well. It helps us help you better. But at the same time, some of you guys are going to go even further with your product from just training. You're also going to want to actually productize stuff. So what we're going to do, and what we have done, is we've started contracting and working with customers, systems integrators and distributors worldwide to provide you product, customization of your product, industrial design around your product, basically soup to nuts. So if you don't have the ability to go from your simple idea to the full product implementation, we have people that will help you. So how does our breakdown work on what you can buy today? In fact, you can go over to Make and actually buy these today. We have basically the module that's here at the bottom, $50. Okay, very, very, very cost-effective, high-performance platform. if you want to get started and you haven't done anything before on electronics, I would highly recommend you start with the Edison kit for Arduino and download the Arduino IDE, and you can get started right away. You don't need to know anything about Wi-Fi or anything like that. You can get started right away using it. And then as your capability grows and your knowledge continues to burst out of its seams, then you can start adding Wi-Fi connectivity. And we have libraries now that you can add to Arduino that allow you to do all the cloud connectivity that you want as well. And for those of you that really want to get down to the nuts and bolts, we have the Edison Breakout board. And the Breakout board is basically exposing all of the 70 pins that come off the connector, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. And it exposes all the 1.8 volt raw I/O coming off the SoC. So it's not really for the faint of heart. You're not going to interface this very easily to a 5 volt system, but you really know what you're doing. So that's intended for guys that want to integrate it into a platform. They really understand the electronics aspect of things, but it helps you just have access to everything. And one thing, I guess, before I leave that particular section is, if you haven't been to the Intel booth, you can see both of these platforms, and you can kind of get your hands on it, kind of get a feel for how big a size they are. The other thing you want to do is you want to wander to the back of the booth, and you want to talk to the SparkFun guys. The SparkFun guys have created a stack system that allow Edison to be built on a very, very small form factor. It's kind of like the little Breakout board, but they break out at stuff a lot of us normally understand, like a USB port or a 5 volt I/O or analog inputs and things like that. So you can get started on a very, very tight, small implementation very quickly. In fact, almost productize an entire thing in a very small cube. Okay, this is basically it. Okay. Some of you have seen some stuff from before and probably have watched it on the website. And of course, if you were listening to Brian talk about it earlier this week, we talked about the size, and the types of things that we're pushing to and the boundaries that we're trying to break. One of the things that we found was we had lots of excellent feedback immediately on the platform, and we found out basically right out of the chute, if you don't have the performance level for the gateway applications for IoT out of the box, then you're probably not going to have a successful product. So what we did is we crammed in a significant amount of horsepower into the platform, and also made sure that we could meet all the high performance requirements of 802.11n, give you onboard antenna, and wrap up FCC compliance right into the package. So what does it look like physically? Most of you will see it as it was before with the skins on it. But we take the skins off and look under the hood. Some of the most difficult things that you guys have found, especially if you've gone over to Radio Shack and the Make facility and seen the Radio Shack soldering demonstration. You got these big irons, and you're soldering large wires and big pins and things like that. These are the types of things that are on like 0.4 millimeter pitch ball grid arrays with pop packaging and all kinds of incredibly difficult packaging constraints to get this product into this size. And to get to a product, if you go up to a manufacturer in Asia and say, hey, I'd like to buy 100 of these devices with pop packaging and all this other stuff, and they go, yeah, I don't think so. Okay. So what we did is we used our horsepower as Intel to help create this platform so we can take all of those complications out of your product and give you a module that you can start with right away. So in it, you can see the 70-pin connector over here to the left side is 35 millimeters by 25 millimeters. 70-pin connector is a Hiroshi connector, and it is 0.4 millimeter pitch. Okay, so you're probably not going to be soldering wires to that, and we'll talk about how you get out of that thing. But built into the thing, we built an 802.11n and Bluetooth 4.0 capable radio. And we also gave you 4 gig of flash and a gigabyte of RAM. So there is No lack of horsepower on this platform. Here's all the nuts and bolts eye chart for all you guys that want to really get down to the nitty-gritty. You can find this presentation on our community site at maker.intel.com/Edison. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the expansion boards. So of course, we've created a couple of expansion boards. I'm going to go into some detail on here, but one of the things that we found to be the case, we can't just create everything. In fact, we don't even know what people are really going to want. And then just to sit down and start churning those things out, well, that doesn't really utilize our time better. We want to optimize the platform of Edison. And so we reached out to partners and found partners that wanted to create expansion boards for our ecosystem, and one of them is SparkFun. Now, we also have other ones that are being created. And if you go down to the Intel booth, you'll see Trosson Robotics has a Breakout board that they've created specifically for the Jimmy product. You'll see other ones that'll come out from drone manufacturers, such as 3D Robotics. There will be other ones that come out for different markets, and all across the world, we're seeing a lot of uptick on lots of different market segments that we had never even dreamed that Edison would actually fall into. But the other thing is that you may actually want to create something yourself. Once you've created and hacked together your Arduino board, it may be that what you want to do is, build your own custom unit. Okay, well, that's not really for the faint of heart either. But for those of you that are Eagle drivers, or Allegro drivers, or Altium drivers, or whatever, we've published all of our databases for all of our product, except for Edison. We didn't publish that. However, give me a call. We'll see whether we might do that for you if you have a big enough volume opportunity for me. So getting back to the maker piece, one of the things that we want to do is make it easy for you to start with. So using the databases, the schematics, OrCAD schematics, or Eagle schematics, and then an Eagle layout libraries, you can get started with your platform right away. And we include things like how the USB connects, and that way you can get your console window up and running no problem, or you can get client mode to work correctly, or you can get USB host mode to work correctly. So those guys, you can design your own, and then you can go to some of the custom expansion board vendors, and they'll make you a custom expansion board. So what does the Edison board for Arduino look like? Basically, it's this. This is without the Edison. The Edison is configured down here on the lower left-hand side. And we basically give you Arduino rails and a full set of umbilical cord connections so that you can hook up via USB from a Mac, PC, or Linux, download the IDE directly from our website, surf right into the board, start running sketches immediately. Okay, but also on this board, we've created a place for SD cards, so you can add other things that you want to do to Edison. There's also some push buttons on there and some LEDs for some feedback and doing stuff with the device itself. The Breakout board is not too much bigger than the size of an Edison. And what we found immediately on the internal trials team, because Intel is basically a city unto its own, so its entire amount, 100,000 makers, and there's 100,000 people work at Intel, there's probably 100,000 makers there too. Very first feedback that we got back from them was, wow, this Arduino board's big. Well, yeah, I mean, that's so that, normal human beings can actually, prototype things, okay? And they said, well, no, but we're trying to make a wearable thing for a helmet and, something we can put in a shirt and things like that so we can prototype that up. And we're like, oh, right, okay, makes sense. So the hardware wizards ripped out the 1.8 volt Breakout board. And we also give you the USB outputs as well so that you can use it as a client or as a host or, use the serial port directly from the FTDI chip. It's a very, very convenient product to use. The other thing that we've done with both Arduino and the Breakout board is that we've also included battery charge management onto the platform too. Because we know that some of you are going to want to to use this in a battery application, and a single cell lithium ion works perfectly with Edison. Okay, so that's enough of the hardware. Let's talk about what options that you have with software. So we're developing an entire suite of integrated development environments for you. Arduino is ready to go, so you can pull that down and get going. The other thing we'll talk a little bit about is the XDK, which is essentially a JavaScript developer environment. But for you embedded guys, really, just give me a text editor. Give me VI. Come on, Nano, we're good. Whatever your religion is, that's all you really need to get started. Full C, C++ compiler, built right on. Python's on the platform itself, so if you want to get right down on the command line, rock and roll. Okay? If you are an Eclipse user, then we support that environment as well. For visual programming, for those of you who have worked on the Galileo product in history, you'll know, some of you may know that Willodrin has come up with a visual programming platform, which makes it very easy for somebody to get started with programming and kind of understand what the flow looks like of your platform. It's basically a visual JavaScript environment. It's a very, very cool environment. So unfortunately, we couldn't get that out for launch because we just didn't have enough Edisons to give them. So we quickly loaded them up. They're busy porting the product over to Edison. It's going to be a fairly quick job, but you'll see that coming out here in fourth quarter. And for those of you that feel that two 500 megahertz CPUs, a whole 802.11 subsystem, and everything else isn't enough, we've also included a 100 megahertz Quark MCU on the platform as well for real-time applications. Essentially what this application platform will do was allow you to boot. We're going to give you a free version of an RTOS. Okay? You'll be able to boot that platform, download an application onto that platform, run real-time sensor analysis or filtering on the MCU without having to wake up the CPU. So for very, very low power applications, you can use the MCU to basically do all of the filter handling, and then only wake up the CPU to really do the heavy lifting, and also the radio for transmitting. So later this year, we're going to come up with a platform that is an SDK, software development kit, along with an IDE that allows you to quickly develop the real-time applications on that platform. So another little bit of an eye chart here, but this is our software stack. You can see that we are basically sitting right on top of Linux with all the appropriate drivers for Bluetooth and USB storage and gadget and on the go and all the GPI stuff that you need, UARTs and things. But on top of that, we also included the Arduino IDE software support, and then also a host of other things for tools, including the XDK platform support, native SDK for flashing an entire whole image on it. If you want to start over from scratch and build your own images, you can do that too. And then a middleware section that allows you to create or use our messaging framework to allow you to send messages and publish and subscribe using MQTT or really just HTTP RESTful calls to and from a cloud environment or to each other's devices. On top of that, we have created what we call the Edison Cloud. It uses our IoT analytics implementation. If you go to our website and maker.intel.com/Edison, eventually you'll get to the point where you can actually see what that looks like. When you get to that point, it allows you to go right in there. So rather than telling you what the existing software supports, we're also coming out with version 2 of the software coming out in December, which we're going to add this other stuff. Okay? And basically what we're doing is we're going to rad hard the middleware offering to give you full-up JavaScript support using XDK, also give you all the cloud and intermediate connectivity that you need for middleware. All of the enhancements, we're going to enhance the back end for IoT Cloud Analytics. And we're going to integrate that right onto the platform. So now you can put your cloud applications together very, very easily without having to worry about all of that interconnect stuff you needed to do prior to this moment. So I've been talking about this Edison Cloud. What actually is it? Okay. So the analytics platform basically is a data store. Okay. You've seen several of them out here today, and they're all very, very good. All of them have different ways of handling your data. But one of the things that we saw that we thought kind of lacked in the environment was security, for one, and Intel, is really, really big into security. So we started with security as our base platform and built that from there. Scalability being the other. So scalability of the platform built in with lots and lots of incredible back-end, third-party, even open source implementations, or in fact, the entire platform is built out of open source implementation. But we allow you to connect your Edison, throw data up into the cloud, take a look at it, time series analysis, put limits on there. Oh, the temperature of my house is too high, I got to turn the air conditioner on, or, gosh, the spa's too cold. I want to make sure that I can jump in there right after my golf game. Let's take a look at it. Or, have it make decisions where other Edisons are looking at things. Oh, this Edison needs to do these other complex functions based on what some other Edison is doing. Okay, that's kind of a major hand wave of my Edison platform, and I appreciate the time for you guys to be here today. If you have further questions, I'm going to be out in the lobby here for a little while, and then also out at the Edison booth, the Intel booth. I call it the Edison booth. Just come see me. And then I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. So we have a couple of minutes at the moment, so any questions right off? I can answer probably a couple. Yeah?
Is the Bluetooth module backwards compatible with Bluetooth plastic profiles?
Good question. So is the Bluetooth module, or the platform that we put on there, is it compatible with previous Bluetooth products? And the answer is yes. It actually is Bluetooth 4.0, so it's basic rate 2.1 plus EDR, and then all the BLE profiles as well. So we're right in the middle of qualifying a lot of the Bluetooth profiles at this particular point. We're getting to them as fast as we can. We have HID up and running right now. A lot of you have come back and said, hey, we really want the PS3 controller, really to talk to this thing. So we're jamming PS3 control capability into that as well. And then all of the appropriate things like all the GATT protocols for BLE, we're going to integrate in on the second software release. It actually is in there right now. We use the Blue Z5 stack. We just haven't validated all of the profiles. Other question? Yes? Are there any plans for Java? So the answer is, that's actually the first question that I've actually had on Java. So, yeah. Okay, so now we're taking a look at it. I don't know if you know this, but we've actually made our own clean room version of Java, but we're also talking with the teams at Oracle to understand if we can drop Java, the current implementation, their JRE engine, right onto the platform. We believe that is fully functional and capable. We just haven't done it yet. But hopefully within the next couple of months, you'll have whatever you need. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you.
Will you be able to take some questions out in the back?
Yeah.
Okay.